In today's video, we will be going through a war drama film titled Beasts of No Nation. There will be spoilers ahead. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. The movie begins with a group of kids playing while a young boy narrates that their country is currently at war. A boy named Agu sells a broken television, which he calls an imaginary TV. But the man refuses to buy it. Fortunately, Agu manages to sell it to a soldier. Agu and his family are living in a buffer zone, which is currently safe from the war. At home, we see Agu's family living peacefully. His mother takes care of him and his siblings, while his father, who used to be a teacher before the war, has become the sector chief and helps refugees who come to the buffer zone. One day, Agu, his brother, and their friends block the road with a branch and ask drivers for money. Suddenly, a crazy old woman appears, scolds them, and calls them thieves. Back at home, Agu's family is happily eating together when his father notices the television. It turns out that Agu purposely broke the TV so he could sell it. Agu quickly runs away and hides from his father. The next day, updates about the war are being broadcast on the radio, but Agu is not paying attention. Instead, he is busy making fun of his sleeping grandfather. Soon, trucks filled with soldiers arrive in their village. During a meeting, the villagers decide that all women and children should flee to the capital city, while the men stay behind to protect their properties. At home, Agu's mother and father argue about leaving, while Agu and his older brother continue playing a board game. The next day, Agu's father arranges for his wife and younger children to leave for the city, but Agu is unable to go with them. His father tries to negotiate with a driver, but the driver refuses. Having no other choice, Agu's father promises his wife that they will reunite once everything is over. In the end, Agu, his father, his brother, and his grandfather remain in the village. Shortly afterward, Agu and his family are forced to hide as bullets fly during a violent shootout. Fortunately, they manage to stay hidden. Agu's father peeks outside and watches rebels and government soldiers exchanging gunfire. However, he is shocked when he notices a cannon aimed directly at their hiding place. After the cannon strikes the building, some people try to escape, but they are immediately shot as soon as they open the door. Agu, his family, and the other men eventually surrender to the government soldiers outside. The soldiers gather all the men together and ask whether they are connected to the rebels, which Agu's father quickly denies. Agu's father introduces himself as the sector chief and explains that they are ordinary civilians protecting their homes. However, one of the soldiers calls for the crazy old woman and asks whether she knows the men. The woman claims that she does not know them. She also accuses them of probably being rebels. Agu's father tries to explain that the woman is mentally unstable, but the soldier ignores him. The soldiers accuse the men of being enemy spies and execute them. Agu and his brother quickly run after their father orders them to escape. Unfortunately, Agu's brother is killed during their escape, leaving Agu as the only survivor. He continues running through the bushes and spends several days wandering alone trying to stay alive. One day, Agu notices a young boy and immediately follows him, but the child suddenly disappears. Soon after, Agu gets caught in the middle of a shootout and is attacked by the same boy he saw earlier. Moments later, several armed men arrive and reveal themselves to be members of the Native Defense Forces, also known as the NDF. They capture Agu, believing that he might be one of the enemy soldiers. Later, a man known as the Commandant, the leader of the NDF, arrives and asks about Agu. He asks who brought the boy there, and another child soldier named Strika responds that he did. The Commandant then asks Agu why he is there, and Agu explains what happened to his family. The Commandant tells Agu to proudly say his name, and then decides that he will join the NDF and train alongside the other soldiers. Afterward, they all march back to the camp. At the camp, everyone shows respect to the Commandant. Meanwhile, Agu is handed over to another soldier for training. Later, Agu sits with the other soldiers, but he is the only one without food. When he asks for something to eat, a soldier tells him that only real soldiers are allowed to eat. Soon, the Commandant calls for Strika. The scene then shifts to Agu beginning his military training. At the same time, Agu quietly prays to God, hoping to see his mother again, while the second in command announces that the NDF is winning the war. Little by little, the children are lectured by another soldier about their rights and how the enemy is trying to take those rights away from them. After completing their training, Agu and the other children officially become part of the NDF through a ritual ceremony for blessing and initiation. Soon after, the Commandant orders everyone to clear the area because they will be moving out the next day. Later, the group prepares an ambush mission on a bridge and waits patiently for the perfect moment to attack. Their ambush is successful, and they overpower the enemy soldiers. After the battle, the Commandant calls Agu forward and orders him to kill one of the captured men. The prisoner desperately begs for mercy and claims that he is only a student, but the Commandant strikes him and ignores his pleas. Agu hesitates hesitates at first, unable to carry out the order. However, after being pressured and provoked by the commandant, Agu finally attacks the man with a machete. The commandant then orders Strika to assist him, and together they brutally kill the prisoner. Afterward, the commandant instructs the second-in-command to give Agu a gun. As soon as Agu receives the weapon, he collapses to his knees and vomits. Later, he speaks to God, struggling with guilt over what he has done. Sometime later, Strika approaches Agu and gives him clothes and items scavenged from the dead enemy soldiers. Agu tries to talk to him, but Strika remains silent and only responds through body language. The scene then changes to the commandant speaking to his men about the food and women waiting in the place they are heading toward. At that moment, a soldier arrives with a group of refugees and informs everyone that the enemy has already captured the refugees' town. The next day, the second-in-command leads his unit as they move forward to retake a bridge from enemy forces. The second-in-command asks the commandant for backup, but the commandant only reminds him how important the mission is. He then calls Agu over and allows him to watch the battle through the scope of a gun. Soon after, the soldiers charge into the battlefield and begin fighting fiercely. After the battle, Strika brings Agu to the commandant, who praises Agu for his performance. The commandant tells Agu that he reminds him of his younger self. He also explains that becoming a great leader first requires learning how to be a loyal follower. Later, the commandant calls Agu into his room. Inside, he sniffs burnt gunpowder and lies down while ordering Agu to stay near him. The scene then cuts to outside the room, where Strika quietly helps Agu walk and silently comforts his friend. The next day, Agu appears distracted and mentally exhausted. A soldier notices this and gives him a substance called brown, which causes Agu to become intoxicated. Later, the commandant informs the soldiers that the next village they are heading to is filled with enemies. As they move forward, several United Nations vehicles pass by them. Soon, Agu and the other soldiers arrive at the village and begin shooting everyone in sight. Later, they enter a building and discover a woman and a child hiding inside. Agu quickly hugs the woman, believing she is his mother, but he soon realizes she is not. Meanwhile, Strika drags the child outside. Realizing the woman is not his mother, Agu suddenly lets go of her and calls her a witch. Outside, Agu sees Strika and the other soldiers beating the child. As Agu wonders whether God is watching him, he shoots the woman in the head while other soldiers assault her. The scene then changes to the commandant watching his men place grenades into the mouths of captured enemies. At that moment, he receives a letter from Supreme Commander Goodblood, who is calling for them. As they prepare to leave, the grenades explode. The commandant then orders one civilian to be left alive so they can warn nearby villages that his forces are coming. He also announces that Agu and Strika will officially become part of the squad from that moment onward. Afterward, the group travels to meet Supreme Commander Goodblood. When they arrive, the deputy greets the commandant and his squad. He leads them into a waiting area where another foreign visitor is also waiting to speak with the Supreme Commander. After some time, the deputy allows the foreigner to enter first, forcing the commandant and his men to wait much longer. This delay frustrates the commandant. The deputy later apologizes and takes them to a room where they spend the night waiting for the next day. The following day, Supreme Commander Goodblood finally calls for them. He orders the soldiers to eat while the commandant and the second-in-command meet with him privately. During the meeting, Supreme Commander Goodblood discusses the changing situation of the war. He then promotes the commandant to Deputy Chief of Security while placing the battalion under new leadership. As the second-in-command thanks the Supreme Commander, the commandant suddenly interrupts and orders him to leave the room. Once they are alone, the commandant confronts Supreme Commander Goodblood about the recent changes taking place within the army. The Supreme Commander then reveals that news of the war has spread beyond their country and that the United Nations has become involved. He explains that the conflict is now also a battle for public image. The commandant is unhappy with these changes, but Supreme Commander Goodblood reminds him that he is a soldier and that his duty is to obey orders. In the end, the commandant leaves, saying that he still has one more night with his men. The scene then changes to the commandant and his battalion arriving at the place of his old friend, Mama, where the soldiers drink and spend time with women. The commandant wants to celebrate both his promotion and the promotion of the second-in-command. The commandant then asks Mama where the women are and she calls them over. However, she says she only has women for the adult soldiers and not for Agu and Strika. As the men leave with the women, Agu and Strika are left behind drinking alone. After some time, Strika falls asleep while Agu stares at a young woman who clearly has no interest in him. Suddenly, everyone hears a gunshot. The soldiers are shocked when they discover that the second-in-command has been accidentally shot. It turns out that the woman with him was playing with his gun when it suddenly fired. The incident makes the commandant furious. The woman tries to escape, but Agu quickly shoots her. At the same time, Strika shoots Mama. The scene then changes to Agu sniffing burnt gunpowder. Later, he checks on the wounded second-in-command, who sadly tells him that everything they have done has been meaningless. Soon after, a radio broadcast announces that authorities are searching for their unit. The commandant calls for Agu Agu, and Agu informs him that the second-in-command has died. The battalion then mourns over the body of the fallen officer. The commandant tells his men that even Supreme Commander Goodblood has now become their enemy and that they must reclaim their territory on their own. As the battalion moves out, the body of the second-in-command is left behind and slowly consumed by worms. At that moment, Agu realizes that death may be the only escape from the war. That night, while the soldiers are resting, they are suddenly attacked by missiles, killing several of their comrades. When morning arrives, the remaining soldiers continue moving forward. However, Strika refuses to keep going. Agu checks on him and discovers that he has been shot. Even though he is exhausted himself, Agu carries Strika and continues walking. Later, Agu tries speaking to him, only to realize that Strika has already died. Despite grieving for his friend, Agu has no choice but to continue moving. The scene then changes to Agu being ordered by a soldier to collect more ammunition. After searching, Agu realizes that they have completely run out of bullets. He reports this to the commandant. At the same time, the new second-in-command approaches the commandant and tells him that many soldiers want to leave. He explains that they have been fighting for months and no longer have bullets, food, water, or money. It soon becomes clear that several other soldiers also wish to abandon the war. However, the commandant argues that they no longer have a life outside of war. During the heated argument, the new second-in-command points his gun at the commandant, but the commandant realizes that the weapon has no bullets left. Suddenly, Agu also points his gun at the commandant. The commandant asks Agu whether he truly wants to surrender, and Agu silently agrees. The commandant then tells everyone to leave, confidently claiming that they will eventually return after realizing they made the wrong decision. He assumes that Agu will stay by his side, but he is shocked when Agu walks away together with the other soldiers. Soon after, Agu and the remaining child soldiers surrender. Agu, along with several other young survivors, is sent to a missionary school where they receive counseling and support. However, Agu struggles to connect with the other children and suffers from painful nightmares. Some of Agu's former comrades from the NDF eventually run away and return to the war after believing the commandant's words. Later, a counselor named Amy speaks with Agu and encourages him to open up about his experiences. Agu fears that if he tells her the terrible things he has done, she will see him as a monster. Instead, he slowly begins talking about his family. In the end, the movie concludes with Agu finally joining the other children for a swim, symbolizing the beginning of his healing process. Thanks for watching.